Hey everybody, this is the this is the show notes about Godzilla movies. This is the one about Godzilla movies. I'm Caleb, and I'm probably never going to get that title right. And this is Brian. This is Brian, and this is his show. Brian, why are we here? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, tune in next time for an even worse intro. It'll get progressively worse every time.
If you wanted to call in for this week's show, you needed to be listening last week,
Which you didn't know you needed to do. This is the one about Godzilla movies, and in which we are discussing Godzilla movies. And why are we doing that?
Why are we doing that, Brian?
We're doing that because Caleb has an obsession, and he's bringing me into his obsession because I have seen as many Godzilla movies as we've done episodes. That's not true.
And
Technically, I saw one before we started this.
Oh, okay. Well,
and you've seen them all, how many times now?
I mean, it is fair to say that I've seen every single one of them at least 5 times. At least.
Oh my god. So I'm playing catch up.
I don't know. It just is.
But I have the fresh eyes on it, and then we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So this time we are talking about Godzilla 2000.
Millennium. Let's just start right there. Why do we need both?
Why is it called both?
Why are we pontificating? I think let's pontificate.
Better question.
I understand, I think, why.
Is there 2 names, or is it only that way in English? Because, oh wow, I'm going to try and pronounce this.
No, well,
I'm sorry if you're Japanese and you're listening. The original title is Godzilla Nissan Millennium.
Yeah, so there's Millennium, Godzilla, and that middle word's probably 2000.
Okay. Keep talking. I'm going to look up Google Translate.
Because Millennium, as explained later on in the movie, spoiler, but this whole, again, this whole episode is a spoiler. We'll get there in a second. I got a TLDR for you. But Millennium means 1,000-year reign. And this was supposed to be the start of the year 2000 was the start of a new thing. And that was, yeah. I'm not gonna explain more than the Millennium thing than that, but
yeah.
But why 2000? I call it Godzilla Millennium. You know what I mean? I just don't, because it came out in 1999. It didn't even come out in 2000. So
I have an actual answer, and that is the Millennium is a reference to a plot point in the movie, whereas 2000 is a reference to the year it's supposed to be set in.
Sure.
So it's probably shot in 98, maybe a little later, came out in 99, set in the year 2000.
Sure.
It's a confusing title.
Sure, yeah. But why did it need to be in the title?
It's not the best title.
We'll give them that because it's a heck of a movie. So yeah.
I agree.
I want to do this real quick before we really dive in, and I feel like I say that way too often. But he's a water-based kaiju. On the last episode, I meant to say this this bit about kind of like Toho's rationalization of bringing the TriStar Godzilla into the monster, or into the Toho.
Is this the Zilla thing?
Yes. Into the Toho cinematic universe, the TCM. The TCM, man.
Oh my god.
The TCU. Anyways, I wanted to read this thing because they ended up bringing like Zilla is in he's in whatever the All Out Monsters Attack, whatever movie that is. Is it that one? Or is it Final Wars? No, he's in Final Wars.
Okay.
Anyways, so they ended up changing the name from Godzilla to Zilla, and Toho said that the decision was made because they also felt that the TriStar film had taken the god out of Godzilla by making him just a mere animal, and just and that was a point you made, that he was basically just like a giant pissed off iguana, like a Komodo dragon or something.
It's just more of a antagonist,
right? Yeah. and there didn't seem to be. Yeah, it's like there was no intelligence at the same level of Toho's Godzilla. There wasn't. Yeah, it was purely being led by instinct to find a nest, right? Whereas Toho's Godzilla is it's a force of nature and a response to human beings being terrible. Yeah, so I just
Yeah.
thought that was interesting, and I forgot to say that. So, cool.
Yeah.
So we're discussing Godzilla 2000 Millennium, and
Sure are.
I have a TLDR here for you, real quick.
Mm.
If you haven't seen the movie, or you just kind of like listening to us talk about the movie instead of actually watching it, because I feel like maybe that could be just as fun. From the movie database, an independent group of researchers called the Godzilla Prediction Network, or GPN, actively track Godzilla as he makes landfall in Nimuro. Matters are further complicated when a giant meteor is discovered in the Ibaragi. Yeah, I've practiced this earlier and I forgot about practicing it apparently. A giant meteor is discovered in the Ibaragi prefecture. The mysterious rock begins to levitate as its true intentions are revealed for the world and Godzilla. Mysterious. See. Cool. Well,
that does set it up.
Sure does. TLDR.
TLDR.
I don't
All right.
I don't see a point. I mean,
where should we start?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wish we had an outline for this.
So last time we traded off just kind of the things that we liked about it between the two of us. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I did too.
So I can go first. Man, this is a cool movie. I think it could have been stronger, but there were a lot of moments that I really liked. Mostly just the fact that this movie allows for Godzilla to be a protagonist. That's something that may have happened before in the franchise, but thus far in the introductory movies that we've watched in this podcast so far, this is the first time that we've gotten to see him kind of be a bit of a protagonist or someone that you're maybe rooting for. So that's cool.
Or rooting for because you identify him as being the good guy or part of the good side, right? As opposed to I'm rooting for Godzilla because I like the villain or something, which is usually me.
Right.
Anyways.
Which is like rooting for the antagonist, which is fine. But
sure. Yeah. Hi. I'm really bad at English. Barely made it out of high school. Thanks. So peace and love with your big words.
Okay, so rewinding to the beginning of the movie, some really cool sequences with this van, just kind of like, I don't know, in the mountains or something, and there's this tunnel. There's just this shot of, like this road that's been like cut off, and the van's like at the end of it, and we just see Godzilla like face to face, but like straight on, like looking into the windshield of this van.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. This for me, maybe I'd say the suit as well, but particularly the eyes for me of the Godzilla design are like a redemptive arc for me in this film. The comments I've made about previous films with the eyes looking kind of goofy, or like googly eyes almost, that is all been taken care of here.
For real. That was one of the first things I thought of.
Menacing.
Yeah, that was
really
literally one of the first things I thought of when I watched this. It was just like the eyes, and I guarantee you Brian is going to say something about it. And here
for sure. It really like takes the character to a place where, at least for me, it can be interpreted a little more menacingly. So that was a sick shot. Just looking straight in the windshield.
And then he roars, and sorry, was I really loud? And then he like roars, and it shatters the windshield, and they're just like, I thought that was a really cool shot. Yeah, and a cool they flipped it to outside the car, and you see the glass break, and like,
and not too long after, we see it or him or whatever destroying like some energy sources or whatever, and they're kind of absorbing. There's these shots that are just like backlit by orange, and it just looks awesome. It's like screenshot worthy. Just like the silhouette shot. I don't know if it was something on fire, or if it was like sunset or something, but it just looked awesome.
Oh yeah, it's
Um,
definitely him, or the like destruction because of him as he's like walking through that little part of the city. Yeah, I know what you're talking. Yeah,
yeah,
and just all the depth and like yeah. Anyways,
yeah, big fan. Um, this is the most random thing I liked in the movie, and was mostly because the moment was random. There is one comedic moment in this movie, I feel. Only one. And it's this worker outside of like the warehouse where the GSN, and he's doing this bit where he's bonking this guy in the head with a pole, with his like, I don't know, he has like a stick or something, like a tool or something in his hand, and he's like giving directions to the people looking for the GSN, and like every time he turns, he like hits his coworker in the head with the stick, but he's like trying to pretend like he doesn't know what's happening or that he's not doing what he's doing,
get back to work. What are you doing?
and just hits him like, "Oops, I hit you in the head with a stick." Um, I don't know. That gag made me giggle.
Yeah.
There was zero reason for it to be there, and it feels very out of place, but I thought it was funny.
Well, see, does it feel out of place though? Like,
Did for me.
did it?
Well, it just like to me, it didn't match the tone of the rest of the film. So
Sure. I
there
feel like
wasn't a lot of
they
comedic moments elsewhere.
sure. Yeah, they're like definitely not as many as like the last one that we just watched, the TriStar Godzilla. Uh and yeah, that one didn't feel forced at all, at least. You know what I mean? It was just was like, oh that was a funny bit. I feel like they go for these random little like anime flares of like I don't know. I feel like I get that from manga or from anime sometimes of like those kind of little silly moments pop up
Mm-hmm.
in what can be serious anime and manga. So, I don't know.
I can see that.
I get that vibe from it. Um and yeah, I don't know. Kind of like a Team Rocket kind of feel almost, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're the bad guys but they're ridiculous. Anyways.
Interesting. Yeah, I liked the story mechanic of sort of this, what do they call it? GSN, the Godzilla something sensing network, detection network. I thought it was GSN. Maybe it was GDN or something.
GPN, the Godzilla
GPN,
prediction.
prediction network.
Yep.
I'll have to fix my spelling of that. But it's cool to have sort of like that story element of like sort of like this fringe agency that has like sensors all over the place, and they're like sort of monitoring where they think Godzilla is and where he'll show up next, for the purpose of warning people or whatever. Of course, that later on kind of gets to have a contrasting viewpoint with the other guy, the CCI, who wants to end Godzilla, but this guy wants to learn more about Godzilla. There's sort of like that nice opposing contrast, um, between Shinoda, who's the GPN guy, and Katsugiri, who's the CCI guy, and their opposing viewpoints. That's kind of a nice contrast throughout the film that they kind of hammer home.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they kind of were consistent with reinforcing that story concept. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was interesting story wise.
Yeah. It's I had that kind of written down, but I might as well talk about it right now. Like it is that like the cool struggle between like humans who just want Godzilla taken care of and gone and just see him as like a nuisance and a danger, and then scientists or people that like yeah, he's this big huge thing, but I think there's a chance to study him and understand why he's here, or science that can be gleaned from his genetics or whatever, which is the first time we've kind of seen that plot point as well in a film. Yeah, I thought it was a really cool little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good story element. technically, yeah, I guess a lot of these are technical thoughts. So there's a bunch of moments where there's like missiles and things being fired at Godzilla, and the explosive squibs, for lack of a better term, on the suit that are just like exploding on impact, just look great. Like anytime something makes impact with them and explodes, there's just like this perfectly timed explosion.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's just like squibs like on the side of the suit or stuff built in where they're literally just like remote detonating them on the proper timing.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that was what I was talking about because I
Um,
messaged you about that. It was like, it looks like they like accidentally caught the suit on fire,
yeah, yeah, could be.
but that makes sense too that they would have like, yeah, built pyro into it.
Yeah, and that's because at least a lot of the missiles that I was seeing, at least when he's like invading kind of down the river by the bridge, there's all these like CGI missiles that look like complete ass, to be honest with you. But the only reason that they succeed is because there's like these very real explosive squibs going off, and like the explosions that you're seeing on film are real. So the explosions look nice in this film. Big fan of that. I think it really sells the other stuff.
I would just like to take a moment to say I appreciate your insight into special effects, and I really hope it is just because you watched every episode of MythBusters like 12 times.
I've actually only seen probably 2 episodes of MythBusters somehow. I There's so many episodes of that show that I would love to watch. Nah, I'm just a movie nerd. um, yeah, so I like this. This was a really brief moment, but so there's this mysterious rock-shaped object, and they bring it up from the sea, and it's floating there. At some point, it goes vertical. They're like, "Oh, whoa, man! Like it's vertical." This is where it's like nowhere near like the city or anything. It's still like out there, and they're like kind of there's a boat near it and stuff, and it's like it's just vertical. And then at some point, it like takes off and goes horizontal, and is like kind of like over the ship, and then it like flies away, right? That shot where it comes out of the water, I like rewinded it 3 times because I noticed not so much like the motion. I'm just gonna call it a rock because at the time that's kind of what it was. The motion of the rock looks fine, but if you look at like the interaction of the water at the bottom of it as it's like rising, the frame rate's like a third or a half of the regular frame rate. And so I
Yeah,
watched
it
it three
just makes
times and
the
I was like,
animation look just so like,
yeah, this isn't a criticism. I was actually looking at it and I was like, maybe this is stop motion. Like maybe they stop motion this object and decided like it needed to be slower and lost some of those water frames or something. But there's definitely like real ocean footage and then like the waves at the bottom of this rock that are like at very different frame rates
yeah,
and it looks kind of janky for a second.
yeah.
But that for me is like a pro because if they're like actually stop motioning that thing, like that's a lot of work, but like it looks cool. In contrast with the CG in this film, but that's for later. So I thought that was cool. I enjoyed seeing all of the period Apple computers.
Yeah,
That doesn't really mean anything. I just like,
yeah.
well, yep, that is the time
The
period. But
G2,
also
the
like,
G2 iMac, the
I'm
orange iMac.
yeah, I've seen all those things before, but I think it's cool like seeing that as like a cultural movement in a different country that I'm from. Just to like see that it's like widely used in Japan and everything, even though it's like not a Japanese company. You do see a lot of other Japanese brands represented in the film. I think I saw like Sony and some other stuff in there. Like, okay, classic. There's just so many Japanese brands, but it's cool to like see all the old Apple computers. So that's cool.
Yeah. And I think it's cool to know that like Apple has been like in partnership, I guess you could say, with Toho for that long now. It's kind of cool.
Really,
So,
yeah, cool. There's a moment where we'll call it a ship now. It's like gets sort of like destroyed and it's on fire, and it like crash lands in the city, like straight down. Like this is an audio medium, but I'm beckoning with my hand, and it just like goes straight down into the city and explodes. And that shot looked awesome. I really liked that shot. If I were to pick 3 shots from the film as my favorite, that might be one of them. And then a lot of other cool stuff happens in the film, but they end on a very cool note where like this CCI guy, Katagiri, like Godzilla's coming up to like face off with like all these onlookers who've been watching this big showdown happen. And it really doesn't make any sense from a story perspective. He just like won't leave and like wants to like be face to face with Godzilla for some reason, even though we haven't really been given any reason why he would want to do that.
Yeah. Like, why does he hate? Why does he hate Godzilla so much?
But he, he just is like screaming things at Godzilla. I forget what he says. It should be a memorable quote, but I forgot it. But there's just a really cool moment where you like see like the shot behind him, and then Godzilla coming down like face to face with him, and it's just super epic, like the scale of it.
Yeah.
What does he shout? Do you remember?
No, I just remember Shinoda being all Katagiri. Like
I feel like he might have just yelled Godzilla or something.
I feel like
really
he may have
loudly
just like
It might have just been that.
I'm pulling it up right now. I don't even
this
care.
is a moment. Epic. So.
All right. Well, hey, time for a cold snack break. Brought to you by Montucky Cold Snacks.
Oh wow. What the heck is that?
It's a beer. It's my new favorite beer. It's just
it's
literally just a light beer. It's cold snack.
It's called a cold snack.
Time for cold snack.
I thought it was like a meal in a can.
I mean,
I'm really inventive and
it's basically bread in a can.
Here I thought you were working at the Willy Wonka chocolate bar.
I am pulling it up right now. Where are we? Just a little bit of the get you here, get you right here, get you here, get you right here. So Shinoda yells, "Get out!" Katagiri pulls out a cigarette and lights it.
That's right.
I've never seen him so close.
It's like I need a cigarette.
It's literally this part of Godzilla's neck is where his head is, and then it's just slow pan up.
Yeah.
So you're on like level with Godzilla. It's like
he's decided very last second that this is how he wants to die.
Yeah. And then Godzilla hand down into the roof to tear it. Shinoda runs back out, grabs him, run. Katagiri goes, "Leave me," and then he punches Shinoda.
That's true. He freaking decks him.
Yeah, like decks him.
Letterkenny style.
EO and everybody else run out to help him, and then he just Godzilla! And then Katagiri! Which,
that's the moment.
As long as we're talking about it right there, that like it's not just Katagiri. He like holds it out and like he
like runs out of breath.
That's another like that feels like another anime moment to me. That feels like another like even in this deadly serious moment, there's this kind of funny like I don't know. Maybe that's just me misinterpreting the culture.
Are we establishing a parallel between anime and Telemundo reporting?
Telemundo.
Yeah. Every time there's a goal. Katagiri!
Oh, is that what they say when they score a goal?
No, I'm just, they say goal, but they say it as long
Play
as...
in the space with me, man.
They say it as long as Shinoda says Katagiri.
I see.
I'm trying to appeal to our Latino and Latina listeners.
Yeah, all the people listening in Venezuela. Shouts out, peace and love.
Little reference
Mi corazón.
for you there. Oh my god.
Was that a
Okay,
Ted
keep
Leo
going.
reference? Not Ted Leo. Ted Lasso? Was that a Ted Lasso reference?
What the hell is Ted Leo? We're sorry.
Ted Leo.
We
You know, like
apologize.
Leon, like Leon Bridges. Is that what I'm thinking about?
No, seriously. Right after that red light you're about to drive through, oh driver who's listening, we're gonna get back on track. I'm just assuming people are only listening to this because they're stuck in traffic. That's my assumption.
I just really hope that I go like my grandpa did in his sleep, and not screaming and crying like the passengers in his car. Yeah.
I love that joke.
Yeah. R.I.P. to a
Okay.
real one.
Things that you liked.
Things that I like.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, I'd like to tell you first about our sponsor this week, Squarespace. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be nice, though. Huh? Wouldn't that be nice?
I tried to act surprised like it was a real thing, but I knew that it wasn't.
Yeah, I would have told you beforehand, I feel like.
Probably.
Yeah, so things I liked. Finally, let's just start right at the top of the movie. I had to, like, the movie starts, you get the Toho Technicolor Dream Willy Wonka acid trip with the Toho logo over it. And then I'm going to burp. And we just cut right to Shinoda just like tightening an antenna, or EO or whatever it is, like his daughter
right in
tightening an antenna. It's stormy, like, and then like all of a sudden here's Godzilla. We're not on a boat, right? We're finally just not on a boat for the first scene of a movie.
I actually said out loud, I was like, finally, not a boat. As I was watching it.
And I had to, because I was watching it on my media server, and then I was like, I wonder if I've just got like a weird version of this somehow or something, or like was the, and so I like pulled it up on, because these are all on HBO Max, and I was like, start the movie over and just like make sure, and it definitely, like, that is how it starts, just like trippy Toho logo cut, but like we're right there. Yeah, so I thought that was really great. I thought right off the bat they took care of some, I don't know if they're obligatory or if it just is like, we just really want to do this, or a couple of like classic Godzilla moving through the city shots, him busting through some like power lines,
those are some of the coolest shots in the film,
the bottom up angle, where you can't see his head, you can just kind of see dorsal fins in the side of his body moving through stuff, but also just the shots that were cool back then that are next level in this movie, of like just improvements in the like real like life-size set stuff shots overlaid with the the dude in the suit and all that distraction going on behind it. Those shots look, I think, the best that we've seen so far of this kind of, like, we've talked about those before, the way that they meld those kind of two shots together.
The comping was excellent in this film.
Yeah,
all the stuff like melded together was really well done.
Yeah.
What else did you like?
Yeah, I'm just kind of, the next one goes to the end of the film in my list here, so I'm just kind of like, I noticed that there were, and I'm sure I missed some in my notes, but like I noticed that there were kind of like ideas or shots or something that was kind of like, I don't know if lifted is the right word, but like that they kind of like recreated or took another shot at from the TriStar Godzilla movie. I think so? I think that the first thing that you talked about liking, that scene of him being face to face, There's more of that in this film, more close up, like human interaction between Godzilla and humans. I don't think we've quite seen scenes like
Yeah.
that before in a Toho film. But I feel like they did a better job of those this time. It wasn't the like. I felt like in the TriStar Godzilla, they tried to make it like a cute moment a couple of times, or at least once. You know what I mean? Like or a heartwarming moment or something. Especially the one with Matthew Broderick standing in front of that like manhole cover that had been like dislodged from the concrete and was now standing vertically, right? And he like is standing in front of
Triggering me
that,
right now.
and Zilla is like right there, right? And he just kind of has that sweet little, and like gets his disposable camera, like puke. Yeah, they didn't try to be cute with it, and they, like you said, they fixed the eyes, and I think maybe that's why they had hesitated to do anything like this up until that point. Was like they've never really been happy with the way close-up face shots of Godzilla looked, because like those shots were few and far between in previous movies, even though they felt the need to do them. So,
I'm glad they did.
yeah,
So
I
sick.
I liked the whole like, so they're in the van, he's face to face, and Yuki starts freaking out and starts taking all those pictures, and Shinoda's like, Yuji's like, what are you doing? And it like freaks Godzilla out eventually, and that's what then like, causes them to have to slam it in reverse and drag the car along the whole side of the tunnel. I really don't understand. It's not that hard to drive backwards. Full stop. Title.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I mentioned this already, but like this is the first time we've seen, and I really love this idea of like using skin samples or something that they find. Again, for an idea introduced in the TriStar Godzilla, using a skin sample, studying it, and realizing like, oh, hey, here's kind of like part of what makes Godzilla tick. I think it was a better way of using that kind of research, other than just the like, oh, holy shit, he's pregnant. Like, like the Regenerator G1. I love that, and I feel like they use that name. I could be wrong, but I feel like that name comes up in a couple more movies. For some reason, but I thought it was a cool idea, and the whole like when they're discussing it between like Shinoda and Professor Shiro, and he's like, look, this skin sample shows this, and then like here's all this like healing, blah blah blah, and he's like, well, how far apart are the skin samples? He's like, this is the same piece of skin, but just like hours apart, and just like boom, like these self-healing properties of Godzilla, right? Yeah, I thought that was a cool, like, and like a good science base to back up this really passionate belief that we shouldn't just destroy Godzilla. You know what I mean? There wasn't just a like, it wasn't just, well, we think we can put, like, we've been researching him, and now, oh, we found this, now we've got the skin, and like it's we found this like this genetic whatever it was, like the gene structure or whatever that allowed this to happen, right? So I thought that was cool. I guess I just really appreciate and for me, because I know the story, not the story arc, but I know them, like I know the ways that they've taken story elements and reused them but matured them in future films that we're going to watch. I just appreciate watching the way humans are portrayed to understand Godzilla or kaiju in general in these movies advances along with the technology that they're using. It's like they're being intentionally smarter about their writing as they go on. And it's not just, I think I called this out about probably the second movie, of just like, we're going to throw big sciencey ideas at this. And we're going to see that a lot in the 70s for sure, of just like, hey, look, we made a robot, but like, what? Like, here we made a humanoid that can now go from human size, 6 foot tall, to as tall as Godzilla. But like, what? Like that's cool and quirky and fun, but there's no like side, like, I don't know. I just appreciate when Godzilla got a little more hard sci-fi, if that makes any sense. you know.
More grounded.
Yeah, more grounded, I guess. Yeah, because it's like sci-fi, just like a lot of, or every genre of everything, there is a spectrum of it, right? And so I just have appreciated them leaning more towards something that feels a little less fantastic and a little
Mm,
more plausible in real life, I guess. So, um,
nice.
what else? You called this out, the whole whacking the dude on the head. I thought that they land the little like comedy bits better. There aren't so many, they aren't forced, but where they are, I think that one is the perfect example. Yeah, just they just nail it. I don't know. It didn't feel weird. It's funny and it's not really like matching the tone of the film, like you said, but it didn't like, I don't know, didn't feel forced. I would rather see that than Godzilla doing a jumping dance. Like, if we're gonna have some kind of like slapstick in a movie, that's how I feel about that. We've talked about this quite a bit, but it bears repeating. The struggle between humans who just simply want to destroy Godzilla and those who think that he is worth studying, and we see the government kind of a little bit in this movie especially, like kind of considering both sides and giving both sides a shot kind of deal, or like, you know, hey, we're going to give the scientists a chance, but you have a deadline kind of deal. It's not exactly a new idea, but it hasn't been like that forwardly presented, I think, in a Godzilla movie yet. And even just thinking back
There's
on the films that we haven't seen yet, it's not like hasn't quite been the human story arc up to this point, I think. And like you said, it's
like even the like the back and forth with the whole like trying to get into the tower thing in the military there. There's kind of some give and take and some understanding.
yeah, like Katagiri allowing Shinoda to go through to get Yuki out of the tower and stuff.
Hmm.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. I as long as we're going to talk about that, what is up with I I guess I would just love a whole like give me a couple TV episodes about Shinoda and Katagiri and why like why did Katagiri allow Yuji to go into the building to get Yuki? He knew that he was still in there trying to stop the like data stuff, but also get data from these like aliens or whatever. And he's like, oh, I'm not gonna slow down the plan. He's just being a total dick about like I'm still blowing up the building when I want to blow up the building because I got this fancy card and I get to punch in a number and go boom. Like, why?
It did feel a little forced. Like he has to be the bad guy, so he's gonna do this really explicit move of saying no.
Yeah, just so that we can show Shiro in the background going like, whoa, like his little like
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of appreciate the character of Shiro as the like the government badass guy's henchman who like kind of ends up having a heart and a bit of a conscience at the end of the film, and like yeah, I don't know. It's not a new story arc idea by any stretch of the imagination, but it's I don't know. He's an interesting character. He also reminds me a lot of one of the scientists in Godzilla minus one.
Mm.
And I think just like that's pure coincidence. Um, yeah, Katagiri allows Shinoda to go to the building to rescue Yuki, and then being a total dick about blowing up the building.
Yep.
Uh,
That
I
adds up.
I appreciated that they made him a little more mortal. They didn't take the god out of him like TriStar did, but like we see here, like weapons that are actually able to do something.
Yep.
Maybe not 100% effective, but they're at least
I mean,
piercing
we see him like
skin.
flat on his ass at least 3 times.
Right, which is not something that we've seen before. Um, and I just liked how much more it felt like there was I felt like this film had a really great balance of Godzilla to human time. And I think part of that is the fact that he was on screen so quickly at the beginning. Um, and I kind of feel almost, I'm kind of thinking about this now, and I think you're like, you've already seen Godzilla, the legendary one, but now that I'm thinking about that, that one kind of, while it doesn't follow storyline, it follows this film's formula of like monster appearances, and they get like more frequent and bigger as the movie goes on, but they are like peppered in from go, and it's not a the first 30 minutes of the film is nothing but human dialogue and vague science and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Hmm.
that's everything I really enjoy
Those are
about
the
it.
things you like.
Yeah.
Hmm. My list of things that I didn't like is shorter for this one, definitely, as compared to the last one. But um, just like big picture, I don't think it's the strongest story. I mean, it works. You know, some of it's just a little hand wavy. Like, we need something to happen in this act of the movie. We'll just kind of do these things, and that'll just kind of work. Um, so yeah, it's not the strongest story. Also, Godzilla has such a cool open, but we don't see him for a lot of the film. He doesn't really show up till kind of like the third act. So there is like a large portion of this movie that he's not in the movie, but more importantly, that it's like not really about him because there's this whole like thing with this mysterious rock going on. They're trying to figure out what it means, and so there were some moments in there where I was like, man, like, is this movie about Godzilla or is it about this rock? Like, he feels a little sidelined for a good portion of the film. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure. Um, but that was just mostly so he could sort of come in and you could set up the need for him to come in as like a protagonist, which makes sense. So not the worst thing. Um, this movie, the copy that I was watching, was stereo audio, which I thought was interesting. So I did like some research on like the technical aspects of it. About 2 minutes in, where I was like, interesting. Um, there was an English dub done of this movie for international release. They did a 6 channel mix of that for that release, but the original like stereo or the original like Japanese like home video was only 2 channels of audio, which I'm not like suggesting that like made it worse or something. It was just annoying. I'm used to kind of having the surround experience. And I know and on like all like the little funny movies in the 70s, I'm sure it'll all be stereo audio. But like I would have expected for this one, which was kind of like one of like the tentpole movies, to like kind of have a little more sound mix, sound design to it. Um so that was weird to me. That's just I'm spoiled. The image quality in this movie is not good. That was like one of the things that caused me to actually like pause the movie about 2 minutes in. I was like, what is happening? Like it's like the whole movie it's not quite in focus, you know. And it's for sure very grainy. That's fine. But like not even like crisp and grainy. Like just kind of like,
It's
you
mushy.
know, almost as if like it was like, DVD quality and just like not scanned at the right resolution or something. Like it just looks like a bad scan.
Yeah.
Or maybe like the reels they obtained when they like digitized it to Blu-ray for like a 1080p. Maybe like the reels were damaged and it just like wasn't what it was when it was. I don't know, but I mean, we're talking about like the late '90s. Like
I
it's not
mean,
like that long
yeah.
ago. So I
I
just
don't
don't
know. Every time
understand.
I've seen it,
For a movie from 1999, it looks like damaged, restored film from like the '70s. Like the tonal look of this film, it looks like a movie that was made in the '70s,
yeah.
and it shouldn't. The only moments where it doesn't look like it's from the '70s is when that janky ass CG comes in. You're like, oh right, this came out in 1999. But like the rest of the time, it's like, it just looks so bad. Like I want to know what the story is to that. It didn't like take me out of the film. It just caught me off guard. I would have expected it to be a little crisper, especially with like the cinematography being so good in the previous film, even though it was like, in my opinion, a bad film. Like it looked great, except for the CG. But like the cinematography was great. It was like crisp. The color science was awesome. And then like this movie was like, in theory, sort of Toho's response to that terrible movie, and like you couldn't even like match the cinematography. Come on, guys. Like
For
I'm
real.
rooting for you here. Like
Yeah, especially because
so
of like
kind of weird.
how much Japan has driven camera innovation.
Yeah, that too.
Like you would think, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
I'm literally googling like when the Blu-ray of this movie came out.
Yeah, it's
Second.
kind of a bummer because there are really cool shots.
Yeah, but
And
there's like nothing I can do about it. Or like it's literally just like
yeah,
how it
it's
looks on Blu-ray, I guess.
yep. Yep.
So
Um is that it? You got more things you don't like?
no,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
also like I probably should have said it in the first bit, but I really like the look of the suit in this film. Like it looks awesome. His incredible suit.
I like how
Like the whole
like
like the spiky things all the way down the back look awesome.
the dorsals,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and like the tail's moving the whole time. The tail is like a character in this movie. Like it's doing stuff. Um, really cool.
I like how his neck is just like thick, like wide, and there's just kind of those like I don't
Yeah.
know, it's like a little like wings there or something. So cool. Or gills or
Um,
whatever, but yeah, just
yeah. Like I mean, even like all the close-up shots we mentioned, like those
no,
are
dude,
all
you know what it is? It's like
kind of.
samurai armor. Like the samurai
Oh,
helmets. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah. Maybe that's what they were going for. I think it's a cool suit.
Yeah.
All of like the really cool shots we talked about, like a lot of this film's at night, like a lot of Godzilla movies are.
The
However,
dark hides a lot of sins, especially
don't
on film.
think the suit looks very good in the whole daylight
Title.
scenes when he's like walking down the river or whatever. So yeah, there were moments there where I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely a man in a suit. Got it. Full daylight. Um,
In front of God and everybody.
you know, so I don't know if that was like, I don't think that's an issue with the suit. I think it's just more like a story choice to have these scenes happen
Title.
during daytime. Um, yeah, you love that bill. Okay, other things. Three bullet points, and they're all talking about CG.
Like so many of
Those
the things
missiles
I
were
do, it's a
jank as
reference. And it's a
all.
reference because I love people. Anyways, please continue.
Those missiles, man, jank as all heck.
Worth talking about twice, huh?
Like the fake smoke. Hate those missiles. Really hate them.
Title. Uh
Really hate those missiles. Um, the swimming Godzilla CG, which I believe is the first Toho CG Godzilla on film.
yep. 100%.
Trivia item.
Yep.
Uh, didn't look great.
Again, another
However,
like
however,
however it looked better than
still
the
looks far
TriStar
better.
Godzilla, right?
Still looks far better than the previous one we watched.
That's another one of those like
So
we're gonna take your idea and do it better, even if it's
yeah,
only
all
5%
you had to
better.
do was get the animation right, and even though it looked not the right textural quality, the movement was right. So you know what, they got that. So
Yep.
um, yeah, there's some really bad CG tentacles in the final fight.
The
Just
whole
like
infrared, the whole like switch to infrared, and then
not even in that. I think it's when is it? There's like tentacles that are reaching out and
oh yeah,
grabbing. It
they
might
just
be
like
a part of the fight,
yeah, and wrap around
and
him.
it's bad. Oh yeah, it's like the power lines and stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty janky. The only other thing that like I would have changed is there were several moments in this film where they were like doing like a tracking panning shot with a long lens. Uh, if that's not clear what that means like something's moving horizontally in the distance, or it's moving fast or whatever. And you have like a really zoomed in lens where the camera is like following the movement of that thing. There were a couple moments in this film where like they were shooting via that method, and it was just like really shaky. And I'm like, man, like you couldn't have even just like put it on a tripod
It's
for
like, did
one
you put
shot?
this in the
Like,
back of a Toyota pickup truck and just go
yeah.
drive
Well, there was
sideways with it with
the one
no
that really stood out
stabilization?
to me. Um, well, I think that's what they were doing. Like, there's a one shot with the woman and the little girl in the convertible where they were like shooting them through the windshield. I'm assuming from like a set car in front of them. They were just like shooting out the back, and it was like shaking up and down to where like they were barely in the frame, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's so sloppy. Like,
Like, yep.
you didn't have enough budget for another take. Like that was terrible.
Either that or they shot it super wide and then decided they wanted it closer, and there was like, though the up and down was not as noticeable in
Maybe
the
it was planned
wide,
as a wide shot. Yeah,
right?
who knows? So yeah, there were a couple shots like that though, where I was like,
Because they were getting,
man,
they're going to do it as a wide shot because everybody was going to get
that's
blazed
sloppy.
in their Winnie, but then that didn't happen, so they were able to do it as a.
I
And if you
mean, you
don't know
do
what getting blazed in the Winnie is a reference from, we need to start another podcast.
start a secondary podcast just for all the references you make. It'd be a long backlog.
Oops.
Oops. Yeah, that's all I had really. The reason it stood out to me is I've seen so many examples of that type of shot with a long lens done really well,
Mm-hmm.
and you do want to like a little bit of that camera shake in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's what gives it texture, and I don't know, makes it feel organic. But like not like the up and down, like your brother just kicked you in the nuts while you were filming, like
For real.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um. I. Yeah. So I just kind of. This is the first one that I've been I was in my rewatching. That I
for
was
the
like,
40th time.
yeah, that I was like, oh, like excited by it, and
Hmm.
just it's a fun Godzilla movie. It's not cheeseball. It's got a little bit of serious sci-fi. I think it's a really, like, overall, I think it's a really great mix, and a really great improvement for the series. While there's always, like, I think your list of things that you didn't like are really good criticisms of it. Just really kind of some weird, odd choices all around. But yeah, I enjoy this movie a lot, and it made me really excited to get to Shin Godzilla. I just can't. I can't wait. Like, I'm struggling to, like, I kind of.
Should we talk about the plan?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to continue with. Like, we watched the TriStar Godzilla just because I knew it was going to be so bad. Like, but like, do we, like, what version of chronological do we want to do? Do we want to do the whole Toho timeline and then go back to the legendary one, or do we want to continue to go in, like,
I would.
I
I
wonder if
would.
continuing in time order is a good idea because because we're seeing the influence of, like, this film was, you can see the obvious influence of America's trying to do Godzilla, and we might be able to see that in
Yeah. My
legendary
only like.
pictures, and then kind of going back to Toho. So
My only thought is, we do have to wait a little bit for the release of Godzilla minus one.
right, so we
So
might as well
we do have
just,
some time.
yeah, that's a
Could
great call.
we could take our time to like watch the legendary films, and then just look forward to when it drops on Blu-ray. So.
Well, I mean, at the pace that
there's
we've been
time.
moving, we have to watch 2014 Godzilla and Shin Godzilla, and -1 comes out, what, May 5?
Early May, I think. But then there's also Godzilla versus Kong. Would we be coming back to that then, or?
So that's a good question too, because I don't consider that a reboot or a
So you would say come back to that later.
Yeah, that's just in the Legendary timeline, like the MonsterVerse timeline.
Oh, and then there's
because they set up all the Kong stuff in the Kong movies. Like there's Skull Island
there is
whatever.
Godzilla King of the Monsters as well. You've seen that, right?
Which is
so legendary.
Yeah, but that's the second. Like that still continues in the timeline of Legendary.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not like a reboot again. So in terms of like,
okay.
Yeah, in terms of what we've been after, in terms of like we're trying to do them. I guess we said we were going to watch all the eras first, the beginning of each era, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
King of the Monsters
is a soft reboot then.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And it didn't make sense to me until very recently, but it clicked with me, and it's another reason that I'm really excited to watch Shin Godzilla. Actually, is that whole series that those guys are doing. They did Godzilla, Ultraman, and whatever the third one is, Mothman, or it's not Shibuya. I don't remember. Whatever the third one is going to be. Shin.
I don't remember. It's not out yet, right?
No, it's not. Or yeah,
but they're working on it.
Yeah, it's either that or it was like out in Japan recently or something.
It could be out now.
Those movies are those guys paying tribute to those characters and to like kind of Toho in general. It's like, so they were never meant to, like Shin Godzilla, while it is a origin story, it was never meant to be a like timeline reboot, if that makes sense, and it kind of just stands alone as its own thing. Because it is made purely as a like an appreciation of Godzilla. And they take elements from like every single era backwards and bring them into that story. And they do that with Shin Ultraman. Kamen Rider. That's what it is. Yeah. So, yeah, those three are kind of like the big three kaiju, or like the big three, kaiju, or whatever you want to call of Toho. And the Shin movies are just kind of like those guys paying tribute to those characters, and Toho gave them the blessing and the budget to do it, which I think is really cool. You know,
that is cool. This one wasn't received very well, it looks like, but it should be out though.
Which one? So. Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider. Whereas the other two were received pretty well.
Well, but Kamen Rider was not always like I guess in fame order. You know, it would definitely be, I guess, kind of the way they did the movies: Godzilla, Ultraman, Kamen Rider, in terms of popularity. So,
I've never heard of Kamen Rider.
Exactly.
But I have heard of Ultraman. I don't know how.
My light starts blinking, and that means I need to go home because I am out of social energy. Wait. This isn't my feelings podcast. Sorry.
I never know what's going to come out of your mouth, and I love it.
That's what she said? Oh, she said that. She did. She said that. That yes.
Away from your weapon, I'm in your arm. This is taking a dark turn.
A sharp.
Should we talk about trivia?
Dark turn. Well, before we do that, I would like to take a second and say thank you to you out there. Hello. again towards the end of the episode here.
If you're still listening,
we're finally acknowledging you. As mentioned earlier in the episode, if you wanted to call in for this week's episode, you needed to be listening last week. And you didn't know that, and that's not your fault. It's Brian's. So write him emails and not me. If you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It helps us a lot. We're trying to get discovered and make sure that whoever could possibly love this, whatever this is, that they find it.
If you're watching on YouTube, please comment a count of how many times I pushed up my glasses and itched my nose.
Yeah, that'd be great. And now I'm going to cut them all out. But like if you're listening on a normal podcast player like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Overcast or something, if you would, and if it's your jam, take a second and give us a 5-star rating and leave a comment, and I don't know, just make some friends in the comments even. We'd love to I don't know, I would love to have a follow-up section that is like actually people saying something. I guess we'd have to release an episode first for people to actually be able to say anything.
Are we actually releasing this, or are we just taping this?
Wait, this is live?
Kill's been telling me that this is going out somewhere, but I think he's lying to me.
You know that episode of The Office where they set up a blog
wants
for
me to
Creed?
share in his obsession.
www.blog.creedthoughts.space.xyz.
The best.
Dunder Mifflin.
Wow.
Yeah, so thank you for that. We're going to take a short break here because I need to go to the facilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about trivia.
And we'll come back and do trivia. So stick around. And you don't have to, because I'm going to put an edit in here and we're going to continue right along. Thanks. Does your OBS allow you to pause?
I see a pause button.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. I haven't used it before, so
Recording.
I'm trusting you.
And clap. 3, 2, 1. I didn't.
Why'd you do it separately?
What? No, I didn't.
What? Yes, you did.
Yeah, we did.
We did not clap at the same time.
Delay. It was the same time for me.
Listen.
It was the same. It was at the same time for me.
That's not going to help you sync it.
Yes, it was.
It was not. It literally wasn't. Do it again.
You're a full second later.
It was like a full second later. I watched you not move. I watched you wait
fine.
and then
3,
do it after
2,
me.
1. No, it wasn't. I was before you. You waited. Well,
it happened the same time for me on Zoom.
Zoom.
You looking at OBS or Zoom?
Do you understand how latency works?
Anyways, we're back.
Hello?
It's real time on my screen.
Talk about.
It's funny because every time I do that, I see my OBS on my other screen like a half second
really?
later do the same
thing. Mine are perfectly in sync.
It's like
interesting.
Oh no, my OBS is behind. Listen, we're wasting film here. We're wasting
I got a reel-to-reel going behind that
tape
door over there for audio. All right, well, hey, in the words of Biff Tanner, let's make like a tree and get out of here. Why don't you give me some trivia? Sponsored by Peach Long Drink.
All right.
Long drink.
Long drink. Makes for a long piss. Am I right?
Turns out.
It says officially, this Godzilla suit. Turns out, this suit is slightly green. I guess a lot of the other ones are dark gray or black, which, at night everything kind of looks the same. But it does have a slight green tint. Um, yeah, thought that was interesting. Um, there's a scene where Godzilla approaches a nuclear power plant, and there was actually a real life
Oh, at
nuclear
Fukushima.
accident that happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned Fukushima. When did that happen?
2009.
A network error occurred
So it
while
never
trying to
happened.
connect
We're
to
on a different
Google.com.
timeline. Fukushima
Right.
disaster.
2011? So it's
March
not that one, man.
11.
It's not that.
Hmm.
So it's interesting. They didn't mention what nuclear power plant, but there's a scene
Yeah,
in the
but
movie.
I swear I saw
approaching a nuclear power
Fukushima
plant.
in the subtitles.
Oh yeah, they did mention a guy from Fukushima,
Yeah,
or a
that's
character
literally why I
who's
call
like
it a Heisel.
there,
Like
or something like
they
that.
straight up
I don't know if
mention it.
that was related. Yeah.
I wish I could just strip the subtitles out and see them as a text doc. Anyways.
First Toho Godzilla film with full CG
And
Godzilla.
I'm assuming that's just for the underwater scene.
So there's that. That's the only shot I noticed that looked CG. Obviously the spaceship was CG for a good portion of the film. The reflections just weren't there. They did, even when it was flying in though. I did notice they had like some kind of like footage being projected onto the bottom of the model to like
Yeah,
as
at
it came
least
to
some
settle on
kind
the
of
tower. You could kind of see like
and I noticed
some
it
city looking
in.
reflections on it or
I
something.
noticed
Yeah, I mean
like it
they
flies
tried.
over and
So
then there was like a reflection in a puddle on the ground. I think I noticed that too. Yeah.
huh. This was, I believe, the first Toho produced Godzilla movie to be released in America since 1985, which I would assume would be the English dub, probably. That got
Yeah, Godzilla
released
Minus One
here.
is the first Godzilla movie to be released in America with a Japanese only audio. I don't believe.
Yeah.
Like Shin Godzilla got a very, very limited release in the US and it was all English dub. But anyways.
Mm. There's several shots of the spaceship moving across the city, and it lands on a skyscraper. Later destroys the building. Very similar to Independence Day. There were some shared creative people involved in some of those directions. Same creative people, so that explains kind of some of the similarities there. This one made me laugh before we started recording because I was reading these. When they were doing the dub for America, there's a line where Yuki's boss says a UFO. I don't remember who that is, and he says, "Jesus Christ." They they replaced it with Great Caesar's ghost.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Of
for
all the things you
real.
could have chosen, so random. Now I wish I'd watched the English one. Not really, but I think that's really funny. Where is the other one I was looking for? There's another one I had a mental note further down this list that was really interesting. Ah, yes. It says here in an article in Variety, a Toho spokesman, a spokesman, if you will, mentioned in relation to this movie, 99 movie, that Sony Pictures, aka the TriStar movie, asked us not to make our own version of Godzilla, but there's no contractual relationship barring us from bringing back the Toho version of Godzilla. Um, Implying that TriStar didn't want them to make a movie, and they were like, "Screw you! You completely biffed your movie.
Yeah, so almost like
It's our
TriStar
turn."
was like, "Wait a minute, we were gonna make 3
I'm just
films. What the
assuming that's how it went
heck?
down.
Brr." And then they were like, "Yeah, but that one sucked. So
Right.
no." Yeah. How about no?
Yeah. Right. The back plates on the suit were made of fiberglass and weighed 20 pounds each. How
That's
do you
so
move in that
cool.
thing,
They
man?
look
Like,
so cool though.
it's got to be so heavy. They look awesome. The producers said the target audience for this film were people in their 30s. Don't really know how that's relevant, but
I
so
mean, yeah.
yeah. And final piece of trivia: the tanks when he's making landfall were all CG,
Interesting.
supposedly,
Yeah.
which I didn't notice. I noticed the missiles. Those missiles were bad,
Title.
man. Those missiles.
Um I dang it, what I had just had something and now it's gone. That's great. Anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all trivia I can see here.
Good soup.
Good film. Enjoyed
We
it.
didn't do this for the last one, or probably the one before that, but which I'm gonna out of 5 stars, what'd you give it on your letterbox D?
Oh, Letterbox D, the cooler cousin of Tenacious D. That's where my mind went. This was
7 out of 10.
a 7 for me out of 10. So basically on
Cool,
par with Return of
cool.
Godzilla.
I thought letterboxed was out of 5. Is it not?
It's kind of where I had it. It is. It's
Oh,
half
and that
stars,
would make it 10.
but I'm used to
Fair.
the IMDb
Hi.
term.
Also, yeah, barely made it out of high school.
Yeah.
Told my math teacher I was red colorblind so that she'd have to redo all of her overhead projector notes with a different color. Didn't want to be in math class. And
I tutored math in college. It sucked.